this because this is where we were on Friday. So on Friday, we set this one up. We started with 235 miles, and we said, hey, how many minutes is that going to be? So the conversion factors that we used is that there's 71 miles in 1 hour. That came from the speed we are going. 71 miles per hour means you're going 71 miles per hour. 71 miles in 1 hour. The other conversion factor we used is that there's 60 minutes in 1 hour. And the way we set it up, just like the bell work, is that if we started with miles on the top, then we had miles on the bottom, so that those would miles divided by miles equals 1, it cancels. Then we set up the next conversion factor, hours divided by hours, cancels. Our answer is going to be left in minutes. Then I showed you how to, hey, make sure when you're doing the math and the numbers, be really careful because your calculator is only as smart as you tell it to be. Whatever you put into your calculator, it's going to do that, whatever you told it to. So you need to be careful with the order of operations, especially in the little blue calculators because there's no parentheses there. So I do all the math on the top first, then I do all the math on the bottom, then I do top divided by bottom. Could I do this kind of like without writing all of that down? I probably could, but I've been doing this for a lot of years, and I find that the amount of time it takes me to do this is still less than the occasional time that I make a mistake and then have to go back and figure out my mistake. It's still easier for me to do this, to actually write it down and keep track of what I'm doing, than it is to, at some point, not all the time, not even most of the time, but at some point I'm gonna make a mistake if I'm not being careful about going step by step, and that's a pain in the butt to go back and actually like figure that out. It's easier for me to do it and actually write out to keep track of where I'm at. Okay, so let's look at this one then. How many seconds are in 3 years? What information are we starting with?
That's a lot of seconds.
Yeah, it's a lot of seconds. Yeah. So we're starting with 3 years. What unit do we want it to be in?
Seconds.
In seconds. What reasonable conversion factors would you know? What steps are we going to do to go from years to seconds? So what are some conversion factors that we know? Cooper?
Yeah, we can do years to how many days are in a year.
Okay, so we know that there's 1 day. Oops, that's not right. Oh boy. That there's 1 year for 365 days.
1 day.
Yeah. That's a conversion factor we can use. That will get us from years to days. What else? What are some other conversion factors we're going to know? Davian?
24 hours in a day.
Okay, so we know there's 1 day for 24 hours. Okay, what else do we know, Hallie?
60 minutes in 1 hour.
Yeah, that 1 hour is 60 minutes. And one more, because we need to get all the way to seconds. Brooklyn, you want to finish it up so you get your whole table all the way around? What's the last conversion step you can do to get from minutes to seconds?
I know.
Good. 1 minute is 60 seconds. Okay, so those are all conversion factors. Those are all true statements saying 1 year is 365 days. We need to be careful which way we put them, top or bottom, so that we cancel the things we want to get rid of and we keep the things we want to end up in. So we're going to start with 3 years. I'm going to start all the way at the side here so I've got room in case it gets long. So I'm going to start with 3 years. Then I'm going to multiply that by a conversion factor that gets rid of years. So I look for the one that involves years. Well, 1 year is 365 days. So I'm going to add that in there. But right now, 3 years is on the top of a fraction. If I want to get rid of years, where do I need to put the years?
The bottom.
At the bottom. So years divided by years. So 1 year is equal to 365 days. When I set it up like this, years in the top, years in the bottom is years divided by years equals 1. It cancels. At the moment, my answer is in days. That's progress, but we need to keep going. I want to get rid of days, so I'm going to put it at the bottom. And I know I can turn days into hours. My days are gonna cancel. Be left in hours. I can turn hours into minutes, which would cancel my hours. I'm gonna be left in minutes. I still wanna get rid of minutes, so I can turn minutes into seconds. My minutes are gonna cancel, which is gonna leave my answer in seconds, which is good. That's what I'm trying to get to. And remember, like I said, often I'll do all the units first, and then I'll go back and plug in the actual numbers for those, because I want to keep track of my units. What am I getting rid of? And then what am I ending up in? So now I'm going to go back and add in my numbers and make sure I've got the right numbers in the right spot. So 1 day is equal to 24 hours. 1 hour is equal to 60 minutes. 1 minute is equal to 60 seconds. Okay, everything on the bottom is 1. 1 times 1 times 1 times 1. That makes it really easy. However, for the sake of practicing and keeping track of, hey, everything on the top divided by everything on the bottom, I'm still going to write it out like that just for now. If it were all ones like this, I probably wouldn't. But again, when we're practicing this at the very beginning, I kind of want to show you that, reminder, everything on the top needs to be multiplied first and then divided by everything on the bottom multiplied together. So on the top, I have 3 times 365 times 24 times 60 times 60. That's all on the top in parentheses. The bottom is all 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1, all in parentheses. Okay, what do we got? Did you get a really big number? Does it make sense that it would be a really big number? Do you have a blue calculator in front of you?
No.
Okay, get a blue calculator. Make sure that you are practicing plugging this in. Use the blue calculator instead of your iPad. Practice using the blue calculator. You don't have an iPad on tests. Okay, Cooper, what'd you get?
94,608,000. Oh, wait, no.
That's what I got too. What? What's my unit? What am I left in? Seconds. Seconds. Okay. All right. Okay so far? All right. Let's go to the back page. Oh, wait. Hang on. I want to look at this for a second. Right here, this one that we did on Friday that we finished up with, I want to point this out because the way that we're setting these up, I use this kind of unit conversion in real life in a variety of different ways. And this is a really specific example right here because my in-laws live in Lower Michigan. It's a 10-hour drive. My husband usually drives, and he drives faster than what I'm comfortable with. And so we often will, discuss how fast, like he'll say like, oh, but if we go this much faster, we're going to save so much time. And I'm like, well, no, if we go this many miles at 60 miles an hour, it's going to take this long. If we go this many miles at 80 miles an hour, like you could actually go through and, hey, how much time does it actually save depending on how far you're traveling and how fast you're traveling. Like that's a good example of using this in this exact problem in a very real life kind of way. Like, does it actually matter if you're going to go 60 miles an hour versus 80 miles an hour? Or what about 70 miles an hour versus 80 miles an hour? Is that actually going to be a significant time savings?
Yes.
So just as an example. Do it. Figure it out.
How many miles?
I don't know. It's a lot. 450.
I'm good.
Okay. Okay, as you plan the class party, you need to figure out how many 2-liter root beer bottles to buy for root beer floats. There are 29 people in the class. The plastic cups hold 8 fluid ounces of root beer. Each person will have 1 root beer float. Here's another, not science-y kind of example, like a real-life kind of example. So this problem has a lot of, within the problem, it has a lot of information, and a lot of those are conversion factors. So let's set this one up. When I set this one up, Does it matter if you were to do all of these conversion factors in the same order that I do them?
No.
No, because as long as you're keeping track of your units, whatever order the conversion factors end up in, it doesn't matter as long as you're canceling the units you want to get rid of and you're ending up in the units that you want. So this is the order that I'm doing it in, but if you are doing this on your own and you ended up with these in a different order, that's okay as long as you're following your units through. So I'm going to start with 29 people. I know we're going to start with 29 people. And each people, one people, is going to have one float. I look back in here, each float, each root beer float is going to be 8 ounces. So one root beer float is going to be 8 ounces. So far I've canceled out people and I've canceled out floats. Right now I'm in ounces. Well, what am I trying to figure out? What am I ultimately trying to get to?
2 liter, like 1 liter.
How many 2-liter bottles I need. Which means if I know how many, at the moment, it's going to tell me how many ounces I need. But if I need to figure out how many 2-liter bottles, I'm going to have to turn this into liters. And then know that there's 2 liters per every bottle. So if I turn this into liters, I need to do ounces to liters. So I'm going to check and see, do we have anything that converts ounces to liters?
No.
The one we didn't fill in? 1 fluid ounce is equal to 0.03 liters.
That's not a lot.
That's not a lot. Well, think about how much an ounce is. A very little bit. Okay, so then I know that 1 ounce is equal to 0.03 liters. Ounces cancel. At the moment, I'm in liters. Trying to get to bottles. But I also know that there's 2 liters for every 1 bottle. Do you see how we're able to do step by step like that? Moving from one unit to the next. Each one of these is a statement saying there's 8 ounces in 1 root beer float. And then liters is going to cancel. What's my answer going to be in? What do I have left for my units? In bottles, which is good. That's what I'm trying to figure out. So I'm going to check all my numbers here. I already did my math on my units. On the top, I've got 29 times 1 times 8 times 0.03 times 1. All of that is on the top. On the bottom, I've got 1 times 1 times 1 times 2. Okay, then I finish my math, and I'm gonna get, did you get 3.48 bottles?
No.
Yes, we have verification of that.
I need to teach it.
3.48 bottles. Can I buy 3.48 bottles? No.
Yeah.
Can I buy 4 bottles? Yep. You know what that symbol means? That little squiggly equal sign? Ish. About. Approximately. Yep. So I would round that up to what I can actually buy.
You don't have that much money.
That wasn't part of the problem. That could be a different problem.
That means the teacher can have it.
Okay. How are you feeling about this so far? Is this difficult? Yeah? No? A little bit yes, a little bit no? It's okay if it's difficult. We're going to look at the next one. I'm going to get you started on it, and then you're going to try it on your own. Bless you. Okay, the next one says the average American uses 300 liters of water per day. If you lived off-grid in an arid climate, you may need to have that water delivered. If the water was delivered in 100-gallon tanks, how many tanks would the average American need for a month? So you're ending up with tanks per month is what you're trying to get to, tanks per month. I'm going to start with, so again, in here we've got a variety of different conversion factors. We've got 100 gallons per tank. We've got 30 days per month. We've got 300 liters per day. I'm going to start with that one. I'm going to start with 300 liters per 1 day. Is it okay to start with something that already is a fraction like that? Yeah, especially if what I'm ending up with is going to be tanks per month. Well, then I'm going to end up keeping both of those units, tanks per month. Okay, so I'm starting with that. Think about what we're going to need to convert. We're going to need to get days into months, and we're going to need to get liters into gallons. So try that. I want you to try that right now. Go ahead and do this one. If it's hard, that's okay. It's okay for this to be difficult. It's okay to struggle with this. This is difficult stuff to do. It's not okay to be like, oh, well, this is hard, so I'm just not going to do anything. You got to try something. Like if you're feeling stuck, try and just at least start listing conversion factors. Like the way we did, when we said like that kind of thing, 1 year equals 365 days. Maybe just try to start listing conversion factors if you're not sure how to set it up like this first. So right now, try something, even if it's hard. Where you're at, follow along. Remember, if you did yours in a different order than mine, that's okay. As long as you're tracing through, you're following your units, canceling the units you don't want and turning it into the units you do want. So right now we've got 300 liters per 1 day. If I look at this other information I have, I'm going to end up wanting it in gallons, 100-gallon tanks. So if I know there's 100 gallons per tank, I'm going to need to turn liters into gallons at some point, so we might as well do that. So if I turn liters into gallons, and I look back, 1 gallon is 3.79 liters. So 1 gallon is 3.79 liters. Okay, so that cancels liters. At the moment, I've got gallons per day. Gives me one step closer. I'm also going to I know I've got 100 gallons per tank. So the next one I'm going to do is 100 gallons per 1 tank. That's going to cancel gallons. And now I have tanks per day. Okay, tanks per day. Ultimately, though, I want tanks per month. So I can turn days into months. I've got days on the bottom, so I need to put days on the top over here because that's going to cancel out days. And there's 30 days per 1 month. So right now, I've got my units are going to be tanks per month. Is that what I want?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to solve for, tanks per month. Okay, so now I need to check my numbers. For my numbers, I have on the top 300 times 1 times 1 times 30.
Just a lot.
On the bottom, I've got 1 times 3.79 times 100 times 1. So if I do all the math on the top and the bottom, that's going to be and if I do so good so far, getting the same numbers, always check my math. Don't assume I don't make mistakes, because I for sure will. Okay, and then if I do that, 9,000 divided by 379 gives me 23.7 tanks per month. So go back, check your units. Tanks per month. Tanks on top, months on the bottom. But again, can I order 23.7 tanks to be delivered? No. What can I do?
You can get smaller.
I can get 24 tanks per month.
Can you get smaller tanks?
Maybe, but again, that'd be a different problem then. Yep. Okay, real quick, let me see thumbs up, thumbs down, somewhere in between.